All right, if you're into high school sports, this is the place you want to be. If you're into things like, I don't know, cooking with pumpkin spice, we're not going to be able to provide that for you even though it's fall. But stick with us for a little bit. You may still enjoy what this is. It's the Prep Zone, Mark Giannotto, John Roteman. And guys, we had a great week in high school sports. Some performances that, I mean, we're looking at some of the stats. And we're going to get into all these previews and some of the games that happened first. Unbelievable games. I mean, guys putting up just ridiculous numbers. And that's just what makes high school football great a lot of times, is seeing some of these performances that we got this past week. So we'll get into that. We're going to preview those games. Plus, we'll get into our DVR a little bit and fast forward into our crystal ball and see what's going on in the future as well. All right, joined by BJ Kumbarulis here, and it's a pretty simple question. For people that don't know, what is DMVSTREAM.COM?
DMVSTREAM.COM, the concept behind this project when we started this a few years ago was to be the primary source for streaming high school, college, some pros, athletics in the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And
I see where you got that.
Yeah,
there you
right?
go. That makes sense.
Pretty
right?
novel concept. You know, and we originally when we started it out, you know, bumps and bruises along the way, but we've gotten into a place now where we're in a rhythm. I mean, you know, as a contractor and also as just an overall project, you know, through our parent company, Synthesis Multimedia, we are, you know, we're hitting upwards of 175 events a year now, sporting events and others. So, you know, we're really excited about the new studio that we're in today here for the Prep Zone, which of course you're hosting, and that is just another step forward in the high school sports arena. It's going to be a show with highlights, graphics, replays from the week, fast forward previews, analysts, coaches, all kinds of stuff, all related to high school sports in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area.
All right, thanks, BJ.
Thanks.
All right, welcome back into the Prep Zone. We're going to get into some of the games now that we saw this past week, get into our DVR, if you will, and sort of rewind. And guys, the first one up, Potomac and Douglas. Unbelievable performance from a guy like Andre Hall. The numbers, I mean, you look at this, I looked down at it when this first happened, and I'm like, really? Is this really what we saw? You covered it. How do you even describe what Andre Hall did?
I mean, this was probably the game of the week and the performance of the week right here in a nutshell. Andre Hall, 5 catches, 308 yards, 4 touchdowns, including a 75-yarder you're seeing right here to win the game, 32-30 over the defending Maryland 2A state champs Douglas. It's just remarkable, really. I mean, this wasn't really known as a great passing offense, but obviously it got clicking. This was the first home game Potomac's had at its new stadium, and they beat a really good team. I mean, this was an exciting game. I mean, you look at it before that game-winning touchdown, it looked like Douglas was going to pull this out. Devin Butler, a Maryland defensive back recruit, he plays quarterback for Douglas. He had just scored. He was having a game himself, 19 rushes, 147 yards, 4 total touchdowns. But I mean, for Potomac, this puts them in the driver's seat in the 3A, in the race for the top seed in the Maryland 3A playoff standings. Whereas you look at Douglas, now Douglas, they went undefeated, won a state title last year. They might not even make the playoffs because of this game. Back and forth game, and it was just...
I mean, look, 308 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's a remarkable stat line when you look at it.
He literally averaged like 80 yards a catch.
It's insane. But you think, he had 3 touchdowns over 70 yards, right? Something along those lines? I mean...
it was 45 yards, 72 yards, I think, 75. I mean, the kid, he's their leading receiver. He's been their leading receiver all year. But nothing like this. This was a superhuman effort.
I mean, it's amazing to watch something like that. That's what you love, I think, about high school football a lot of ways. Is every once in a while, like, you don't always get this when you get to the higher levels, but high school sports, sometimes you get these dominant performances, and that's what we had in that game, and that was an unbelievable one to watch. Westfield and Centerville was the next one up. Didn't have anybody score 4 touchdowns in that game,
Yeah.
but it was definitely still another really good game to watch as well.
Yeah, well, Westfield and Centerville is one of the more competitive rivalries in Northern Virginia. Westfield's usually known for pounding it out on the ground, but this time it was Tyler Scanlon, quarterback converted from wide receiver, threw a pair of touchdown passes. Centerville's gotten the best of Westfield the last few years, when the game counted in the playoffs, but Westfield was able to get Centerville, edged them by a point last year in the regular season. They get them again this year in the regular season thanks to the right arm of Tyler Scanlon. Westfield's been on fire since losing to South County early in the season. That's their 6th win in a row. They're in first place in Conference 5 right now, sitting pretty. I know there's still some things they'd like to improve in on the offensive side of the ball, but that defense is just tremendous. Holding Centerville to 12 points. I know Centerville is not the same loaded team they've been in the past couple of years with all those athletes that they graduated, but another win for Westfield, 6 in a row, and they are sitting pretty at this point in Conference 5.
Fun fact, I have cousins that go to both of those schools. Just so you know that. I want to make sure that we add that into the show, 'cause that's obviously the most important fact about all this, right?
Absolutely.
2 touchdowns, 204 yards. Again, solid performance all around, 100%. Next one up, Duval and Suitland. Mark, you covered that one as well.
Yeah.
Again, no 4 touchdowns in that, but still.
No, but it was a really good game, and Duval. I mean, they're missing their best player, Antoine Brooks, suffered a devastating injury a couple weeks ago, a compound fracture and a broken wrist. Well, actually, in the Washington Post, I'll have a story on him next week, so check that out. But they keep winning. They keep finding a way to win, and they have a new quarterback now, Kendall Gregory, and he threw the ball to DeMarco Say, who is actually Antoine Brooks' cousin, and he came up big in this game with a touchdown and interception, and it really kind of solidified Duval's playoff hopes. I'm pretty sure they're not clinched and in, but this win went a long way towards doing that. Whereas Suitland now they have 2 losses in conference, and it's going to be an uphill battle for them to make the playoffs. This was a back and forth game. Tevin Singleton from Suitland had a couple long touchdown catches, but just you can't overstate how big a win this was for Duval, considering they're having to basically redo everything with Antoine Brooks out because Brooks was their entire team. Everything ran around him, so it's a credit to the coaching staff there at Duval and to the players that they've really stepped up, and it was fitting that Antoine Brooks' cousin was the key player in that game.
89 yards, 5 receptions, touchdown, interception. I mean, both sides there, which is always good.
Yeah, he was kind of Robin to Antoine Brooks' Batman, and now he's Batman and Robin.
All right, when we come back, we'll get back into some of the other games from the past weekend, including Potomac and T.C. Williams. That one was really one-sided. This is the Prep Zone. Welcome back inside the Prep Zone. We're getting back into some of the other games we had in high school football this past week. And Wakefield Marshall, that's the next one up that we've got on the list here. You were there?
Well, this is a game of long-time perennial doormats that have either turned things around now or are starting to turn things around. Wakefield, losing season after losing season for the better part of 3 decades. Until last season, they make the playoffs. Win the first playoff game in school history. This year, after dropping their first 2, they've carried that success. They've won 6 in a row. Heading into this game, it was a matchup of 2 3-0 teams in the conference rather than doormats. And while Marshall is on the heels of Wakefield trying to get where they're at now, the difference really was Wakefield running back Leon Young. 4 touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Tremendous game. It was actually the second consecutive game that he had 4 touchdowns. Some running backs are just one-trick ponies. They carry the ball, and that's it. He had 30 carries for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns, so we can definitely do that. But he's also a very good pass-catching running back. He had 5 catches, 92 yards, 2 more touchdowns, and even though he had a tremendous game, Marshall was actually, they took the lead directly in the beginning of the second half. They returned the kickoff for a touchdown, but Wakefield wasn't rattled, and they slowly pulled away thanks to Leon. He had a tremendous game, and Wakefield kind of got a stranglehold on Conference 13 now, still undefeated in that
What was
conference.
maybe the biggest thing that you saw in that game that sort of stood out to you a little bit?
Well, Marshall putting up a fight. I mean, we're talking about a team that won 4 games in about 5 years here, so
Yeah.
they have shown tremendous improvement. But I mean, Wakefield is for real again, and it was tremendous to see Leon's versatility both on the ground and as a pass catcher. And Colton Poitras, the sophomore quarterback for Wakefield, he took over in the 3rd game of the season after they started 0-2, and they haven't lost since he's been in there. And he had a couple of touchdown passes as well. So they showed they can,
Safe to say that might have been the smart move, making that switch a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
All right, Tuscarora, Stonebridge, next one up. This was not really a close one. 42-19, the final there. Mark, you were there.
Yeah, this wasn't a close game, but it was an important game for Tuscarora. They made the Virginia State Finals in the 5A classification last year, but they've never played Stonebridge before. And Stonebridge, as a lot of people know, is the perennial powerhouse in Loudoun County. And Tuscarora really took it to them and kind of showed who the lead dog is in Loudoun County. This is the Bulldogs versus the Huskies, and they built a 42-7 lead. And quarterback Daniel Smith, you're watching here, a pretty long touchdown run. He's not known for his feet, but he's usually a throwing quarterback. But he kind of showed off some versatility in this one, throwing and passing. And Tuscarora did a great job stopping Stonebridge's single wing offense. Really turned Stonebridge into a throwing team in the second half, which is not what Stonebridge wants to do. So it kind of put a stamp on a season. Tuscarora is now, I think they're the only 9-0 team in the Washington area, and this kind of put a stamp on, they weren't just relying on All-Met Player of the Year Noah Reimers last year. This is a complete team, a team that right now is the best team in Loudoun County. They have a tough game coming up in a couple weeks against Broad Run, but with a guy like Daniel Smith leading the way and a really good defense, this team looks poised to make it back to maybe the state finals and maybe win the first state championship in school history.
Wow, so you're not playing around with your prediction on this, are you then?
I mean, it was really impressive. Stonebridge was missing Joe Thompson, their quarterback, who's going to Charlotte, so that played a role in things. But I mean, this was a demolition. This was a statement win for Tuscarora.
How much of a role do you think that played when you're missing a key player like that in terms of just seeing the way that the game ended up?
Well, I mean, certainly, Joe Thompson's one of the better quarterbacks in the area. But Stonebridge had, they played a couple games without him already, and they won a big game the week before against Broad Run. I think Stonebridge could still sneak up on some people. They're still a pretty good team, and just traditionally, that single wing offense is really hard to prepare for in the playoffs. But it was just a really impressive performance by Tuscarora. I don't think anyone expected them to win going away like they did.
West Potomac, T.C. Williams, John. I'm going to make a really corny joke here, so just bear with me. The Titans probably don't want to remember this one.
No,
you
they
know
don't.
where I went with that, obviously. I can see you know where I'm going. Okay,
Absolutely.
Just making sure. Clarify that it was going to be really corny, but anyway.
Yeah, you're good. Well, this is a good Alexandria area rivalry. West Potomac entered as clearly the better team, coming in at 5-2. T.C. Williams came in at 2-5 as a team trying to find its way under a new head coach, Mark Matthey. After the first play of the game, though, this looked like it might be one of those cliche games where you can throw the records out, as T.C. Williams defensive back Colson Jenkins returned a fumble 45 yards for a touchdown. You got to thinking, whoa, maybe TC can stay in it. No. Very next play from scrimmage, West Potomac scored 60-yard touchdown pass from Mark Ellis to Brandon Lisenby, and it was a boat race from there. West Potomac ran for multiple touchdowns. They had a 100-yard back in Justin Annan, but the star of this game, as you can see here, was Brandon Lisenby. He had 7 catches for 143 yards and 2 scores, and this is the 60-yarder I just spoke about here a moment ago. And this performance is important not only because it helped them get a win, but their standout receiver, C.J. Birch, actually broke his collarbone during this game, and he'll be out at least 2 to 3 weeks. He says he can make it back for the playoffs, but you never know. So, and with C.J. Birch being such a fantastic target and with him being sidelined, guys like Brandon Lisenby are going to need to step up, especially next week. They have a really big matchup with an undefeated South County team. And I feel West Potomac's a very dangerous group. They almost gave Lake Braddock their only loss of the season, and I think with the way they throw the ball and they can get good yardage on the ground from their two backs, Justine Annan and Diamond Cleveland, I think this is a really dangerous team, and they showed it against T.C. Williams.
All right, when we come back, the allmetsports.com weekly fast forward. It's time for a little bit of a preview. We'll get into our crystal ball after that. This is the Prep Zone.
It's not easy to do. You can roll it to your right.
Down 3, ready to go out to 4. 1, and out to 4.
For man, Daniel Joe could go down with a right ankle injury. He kind of limped.
Flat, hold down. It'll be Brady to Joe 4.
Pass rush, they had to run the ball a ton. 69 receptions a year ago, and averages, was unable to drag that foot. One of these many tackles for loss, guy who will be a rundown, and then this game tonight, they want to head back to Poughkeepsie at 500 as well. Yeah, absolutely. You got to be fundamentally sound when this defense gets out there. They just got to do what
You're obviously a guy, a ball hawk back to.
It was a major point of emphasis for us. And also, we need to be in better third down situations.
so much spread. And there's finally a handoff.
Calhoun's going to get the.
All right, at this point of the show, we essentially make, I'd like to say educated guesses, but I'm sort of involved in this, guys, so my predictions might not be as good as yours. But this is the allmetsports.com weekly fast forward when it comes to everything in the DMV high school sports. Damascus at Seneca Valley is the first one up, gentlemen.
Well, this is a matchup of classic Montgomery County powers, both undefeated. This is kind of the game of the year in Maryland 3A West. Both Damascus and Seneca Valley have been beaten the tar out of teams. They haven't. No one's even really been close. And Damascus has one of, if not the best player in the Washington area this year, Jake Funk. Gotta love that Funk. He's over 12.
Nice.
Yeah,
I see what you did there. Good
He's
job.
over 1,200 yards. They play P-Funk at the games in Damascus, and he just committed to Maryland recently, and he is just a dynamic weapon. And Damascus beat Quince Orchard to start the year pretty decisively, and then hasn't really been challenged since. And now they'll get Seneca Valley, who has been they beat Northwest early in the year, defending state champion Northwest, and haven't really been challenged since. And so everyone has kind of circled this game as a good barometer of these teams. These are both in the top 10 in the Washington Post poll, and they're probably going to meet in the playoffs again. This might just be round one of a nice little boxing match, and we're gonna see who's for real. I think Damascus has proven with its win over QO early in the year that it's for real, and I think Seneca Valley proved in its win over Northwest it's for real. But this will be a true late season test, a game where either team could win. I'm gonna go with Damascus just because of that singular talent. They've got that star player in Jake Funk. But it should be a really good one. This is probably the game of the week in the area.
As for you, sir.
I'm going to have to take Damascus as well for the same reason Mark was talking about. Jake Funk at the high school level, individual talents can change the way games come out, and definitely have to go with Damascus on that one.
I just like the nicknames, the Swarming Hornets and the Screaming Eagles.
Absolutely.
And not just Eagles and Hornets.
Absolutely.
They added a little something extra to make the nicknames a little bit better. I agreed with you guys because I just decided that was the smartest thing to do. You're the experts, so that's exactly what I did. When we come back, South Lakes at Hayfield. We'll get into that next. This is the Prep Zone.
All right, so today we're at the Bob Carpenter Center at the University of Delaware. We're here on behalf of the National Federation of High School Sports. We are live broadcasting the boys and girls varsity basketball state championships for the DIAA, which is basically the state of Delaware. I want to give you a quick behind-the-scenes look at how we're doing the broadcast for the NFHS network. All right, so follow me. We'll start backwards here, but if you imagine the stats going to the talent come from the in-house feed from the University of Delaware statisticians. So we send that to a monitor for our talent to see it. I will be here monitoring the stream during the broadcast here on the NFHS Network's website portal to make sure and make sure that everything is correct during the broadcast. I'll be seeing what the viewers see at home. Over here, we'll have our graphics coordinator. He'll be operating our graphics. He's sending scores, the clock, team names, timeouts, fouls, and everything across our network over here to our TriCaster. Now the TriCaster is taking in all 4 camera angles, our audio, and a monitor for our director. Our director will be sitting here at this station. Come on over this way and I'll give you a quick look. You can see he'll be taking in 4 camera angles. So this is where the talent sits. As you see the guys setting up now, you see the cameras kind of moving and in place. We have a wide shot here and 2 cameras, one underneath each basket. Here's the live clock that I told you that was coming from the graphics coordinator's computer and being brought across the network to the TriCaster so the director can integrate that into the show. That takes the control away from the director so he doesn't have to worry about things like updating the clock and the score. He can focus simply on the camera angles. And the graphics coordinator is sending that information across the network and our director is weaving it into the broadcast. Here is our monitor for our talent. Our play-by-play and color analyst will be sitting right here at this table, and they will see exactly the show that we're producing and also what the people at home are seeing on their mobile device or computer or tablet. This is the stats I was talking about earlier. We send them from the computer, from Delaware's in-house network, so our talent can see the leading scores, other things like that, field goal percentages, anything you would imagine off of a stat monitor. Underneath the basket, you see one of our camera operators there across the way. There'll be another guy on the other side, and then up top, we'll have a camera operator during the broadcast doing the live shot. We've done a couple of other cool things here today. We've mounted some audio units to the backboards to get things like when guys slam or dunk the ball, we can get that nice sound. We can pick up conversations off the baseline or even upwards to the midcourt. So it's a in-depth setup for a varsity basketball state championship, but the NFHS network is a new relationship for us, and we're excited about the product we're able to offer them. If you want to find out more about Synthesis Multimedia Productions, you can find us at synthesismp.com. Check out the blog for behind-the-scenes videos and more information about how to contact us.
All right, it's the Prep Zone, allmetsports.com weekly fast forward. We got into our first game already, Damascus at Seneca Valley. Now we move on to South Lakes at Hayfield, gentlemen. This is game 2 of our preview.
Well, Nick, Conference 6 is having what I would consider a down year with just 3 teams elevating themselves above a bunch of struggling teams, and those teams are Hayfield, Madison, and South Lakes. Hayfield has breezed through the conference at this point. Now they get South Lakes and Madison to close the year. This week, we got South Lakes coming up, and if anyone has any experience with Hayfield head coach Eric Anderson, he likes to throw the ball around the field, but with this team, he's hitched his wagon to running back Miles Ross, and he's just going to pound him and pound him and pound him on the ground, and so far it's worked for them. And they faced a South Lakes team that had also been breezing through the conference, but ran into some trouble when they faced Madison, lost 35-6. So when you get a matchup like this, kind of like Jake Funk with Damascus, you go with the individual star talent of Miles Ross. I don't see Hayfield pulling away in this one, but 28-21, 35-21. I just see them kind of taking control and staying ahead by a touchdown or 2 for most of the game. South Lakes has the athletes to keep it close. Sophomore quarterback and senior receiver Eric Curlew, but I don't think they have the firepower to hang with Hayfield. I think Hayfield wins this game, and that sets up a matchup with Madison to close the regular season and play for the Conference 6 championship.
What about you, Mark?
This strikes me. I mean, this has been an upstart year for South Lakes, not a traditional power, but they've played really well this year. And I don't know, I'm going on my gut here. I just feel like this is a game this seems like it's a conference that's going to be thrown into upheaval here late, and I can just totally see there end up being 3 one-loss teams in this division. And so I'm going to go with South Lakes here. I think this just might be. I think this
You
might
had
be
to be
the year
the one
in
to be
Reston.
different. You had to be the one that was different than the rest
I
of
love
us.
Reston.
All right,
I don't know
okay. All right.
I don't know what I can say.
Suitland at Eleanor Roosevelt, the third of our preview, Mark.
Yeah, this is a really big Prince George's County game. Both teams 6-2. Suitland coming off a loss last week, like we discussed, to Duval. Eleanor Roosevelt, a young team with running a triple option offense that is tried and true for them. But this is kind of, they beat Bowie earlier in the year, and that was a big win. But this is a really big game for some of their younger players who have really matured over the course of this year, and it's going to be kind of a contrast in styles. Where Suitland, who has a new quarterback the past few games, sophomore Dante Anthony, they like to get the ball to their playmakers on the outside, Tevin Singleton and Manasseh Bailey. And then they also have a really good running back in Rakeem Darden. He's actually leading Prince George's County in rushing yards. But for whatever reason, Suitland in the really big games so far this year has fallen just short. They lost on a last-second touchdown to Bowie. Last week they lost to Duval by 6 points. So I'm going to go with Eleanor Roosevelt on this. I think that triple option is going to be really hard for Suitland to stop. Even though you have a singular talent in Tevin Singleton, he's the type of guy who can take over a game. But I'm going to go with Eleanor Roosevelt in an ugly, one of those ugly PG County 21-20 games.
That's not ugly, that's just tough football. That's all that it is. John, what about you?
Well, this game seems like it's a bit of a coin flip, but I'm going to have to go with Suitland on this one. Triple option is a hard offense to stop for Eleanor Roosevelt, but the fact that Suitland's a little more two-dimensional, I think that might help them in a close game here. And that, like Mark said, the singular talent, Tevin Singleton, I think Suitland pulls this one out.
You had to be different too.
Of course.
Come on. Why can't we all just agree on the same thing all the
Where's
time?
the fun in that?
I know, it's not really at all. You could put on the helmet if you want to make yourself stand out. You want to do that? No? I think you should.
Absolutely.
No? I mean, why not? You've been drinking out of a fake mug the whole time. There you go. See, I knew if we dared you, you probably would at least think about doing it. Now, no one is ever going to wear this again because your sweaty head was in it, but that's okay.
Real sweaty.
I think it's good. You should have done the whole show like that, honestly. That would have been the best part.
No, it would have been better for the viewers, too.
With that.
Yeah, or get like a video of you coming in, get prepped for the show, you're smacking your head a little bit. That's what some people do.
Yeah.
It worked. All right, the beauty of this show, if you missed anything, we've said a lot of stupid things today. We've gotten a little bit out of hand at times. It's on demand anytime you want at DMVSTREAM.COM. If you want to check that out, quite frankly, we didn't get into any pumpkin spice things at all today. I promised people we would. No, I didn't. I'm just kidding. Thanks for checking us out. This is the Prep Zone.